Chimera Shadow Garden is Megumi's domain expansion, and a lot of people were expecting it to be in his moveset when we saw the sneak peeks for it a while back. If you're uninformed, Megumi's domain was planned to be a little weird, with it having no barrier, and instead just turning your surroundings into the barrier. It was a cool concept that was faithful to the anime, unlike some other games on Roblox, and the player base was looking forward to it. A couple weeks later, and we get a message from Z basically confirming that Chimera Shadow Garden was scrapped, with his reasoning being that it was useless. The big question here is why exactly this move was useless, and what problems in development stopped it from being added to the game, which I'll be finding out the answers to in this video. Before that though, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can get even more in-depth analysis of Jujutsu Shenanigans sneak peeks and updates. Now, let's talk about Chimera Shadow Garden. The story for why Chimera Shadow Garden was cut can be pieced together from a bunch of Discord messages in the JJS Discord server and a piece of information a Cyan role gave me. I'll put them on screen while I talk to back my statements up. Chimera Shadow Garden was originally planned to make a domain out of your surroundings. However, a bunch of problems came up with this. The first main problem, which is talked about a little bit in the Discord server, was that it couldn't work in the open spaces because people would just run out of it. It basically made the move incredibly situational in public servers and absolutely useless in ranked. Z also didn't want to solve this problem by going to Sukuna route and giving the move a barrier, because that would have been boring. So, Z went for a different approach and asked people if the move should follow the user, which a lot of people pretty much agreed on. During this development, there seems to have been some problems that made it not function properly, which a helpful Cyan role talked about, and this eventually led Z to decide that making the domain follow you wasn't an option anymore, cycling back to square one in a Sisyphus-esque cycle. Eventually, Z decided to cancel the move entirely, but the player base still wanted domain expansion to be implemented in some kind of way. So what Z decided on was to add the domain expansion in the form of what happens when you use Shadow Swarm near a domain, which lets you break through it. That brings us all the way over to today, where Chimera Shadow Garden is pretty much scrapped. Now, if that story was a little hard to digest, I'll break it down very simply into a sort of TLDW. The domain was useless if it had an open barrier. A closed barrier was boring. Making the move follow you didn't work properly. The move got scrapped for these reasons. People still wanted the domain expansion in the game. And finally, we got the domain in the form of breaking through barriers like Megumi did to Dagon. So that's the reason for why Chimera Shadow Garden was removed from the game. It's a little sad that it couldn't be added, but having Makura is just as cool as an ultimate for Megumi, so it's no big deal. Honestly, losing out on Chimera Shadow Garden is completely fine when you look at the fact that we're getting an entire new moveset in the form of Makura as Megumi's ultimate. Now that we're at the end of the video, I have a challenge for all of you, just for fun. Leave in the comments section what your ideas for Chimera Shadow Garden are, and how you would implement Megumi's domain into a fighting game. Since Megumi's domain is pretty weird compared to how other domain expansions work, there's definitely a lot of possibilities on how it could function, so it'll be interesting to see your ideas. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for even more analysis on Jujutsu Shenanigans updates and sneak peeks. I'm you eternally, the king of yapping, and I'll see you next time in another video. Bye.